Okay, let's talk about transmission oil coolers. What I have here is a TrueCool 4590 low pressure drop stacked plate cooler. It's a 28,000 GVW. It's what's called a stacked plate cooler, and it is a low pressure drop, which is very key. If you have too much pressure that builds up inside these coolers, it will in turn force your torque converter into the crankshaft pilot and in turn take out your thrust bearing. Many threads on that over the years. This cooler will not do that. Also, this is a stacked plate, not a plate and fin, and it's not a single pass. Now, like a single pass would be, it would come in here and just make like a series of loops. Kind of like a old school AC condenser on our cars. I know you guys have heard me talk about the multi-pass condenser I've been putting on for 134A. Same thing with the ATF. Multi-passes will cool it down better than a single pass. Okay, so I use this cooler on almost anything. There it is up there behind the grill. Here's a look at it. Keep your factory shroud in place. If it was a front mount car, it would probably land up somewhere down here. Okay, now on the 200R, specifically 204R, the top line is the hot oil, which will run all the way up and will come in right there. The bottom of the radiator will flow up to the top. It'll come out the top where that little nice radius bend is, not to restrict it. Then it will come into the cooler at the bottom, so we keep the oil in the cooler as long as possible. It will come out the top, and it will run all the way back down and return right here to the factory style pan. So that's how I do it. That's how I've been taught to do it. It works relatively well. I know there's a lot of people who like to run just a standalone cooler. You can do that. However, I won't build you a transmission if you're going to do that, or I won't warranty your transmission if I'm going to do that. You're going to do that. I ran this exact cooler on one of my personal cars several years ago that way, and I took the transmission out not because there was a problem with it, just to try another unit with some experimental stuff in it. And eventually I took that transmission apart, and all the clutches had heat. Every last one of them had heat. And the transmission was working fine. And that was the only thing I could come up with. And the radiator has two functions. In the wintertime, it brings your ATF in your engine up to temperature. In the summertime, it brings it down to as close to thermostat temperature as you can get it, which we all know on turbo Buicks is about 160. So if your cooler does its job in the radiator, it's coming out at about 160-ish, maybe 170, 180 really. And then it's going to come to the auxiliary, and the auxiliary will take it back down and send it back to the unit, hopefully around the 150 range. Transmissions like 150 range is a good number for them. We all know that air and water, when it comes to them, water will always cool faster than air. I know there's guys that have little fans on these coolers and everything, but there's no water in these coolers. Okay, I would much rather have air, or actually I'd much rather have water. So that's why I always retain a radiator cooler. And that's how I was taught back in the day with in the transmission shop and through GM school and everything, is that we always run through the radiator first and then to the auxiliary cooler and then back to the transmission. These coolers are made by the Dana Corporation. They're made in Canada, so they're not Chinese junk. There are other ones out there that will work, but this is just the one that I've used over the years, and I tend to stick with what works. So that's my take on transmission coolers, how I do it here at Stevie's Automotives. It's just my opinion. It's not gospel, but take it for what it's worth, guys.